It is 6:04, and again, today is Monday, February 9th. We are here for the planning and zoning. Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we can have a roll call to confirm quorum.
Mark Saintville,
Present.
Daniel Heisler,
Here.
Julian Kreisberg, Naomi Blemmer, Ruth Ogan,
Present.
Francesca Taylor.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you so much. Our first item of business is item 3, which is approval of the November 10th minutes. Yeah, it's been a while.
I move to approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second by Ruth. All in favor? All opposed? The ayes carry. We do have land development items, but before we get into the meat and potatoes of the business for today, I would like to take a moment to recognize our new appointments. So we have Francesca and we have Naomi. Welcome to the board. We're happy to have you guys here. If anything goes wrong, blame Pressburg. That's how that works. But no, thank you for being here, and we're happy to have you here. We also acknowledge Commissioner Sue, who's here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Swearing in, item 4, swearing in.
So I believe that the city clerk has sworn in both new members. Is that
Okay.
correct? Okay, so we can just acknowledge and welcome.
Gotcha. Wasn't sure. Okay, we don't have any quasi-judicial items for this meeting. They're all legislative in nature. I do note individuals in the back. I'm not sure if you guys are here to observe or if you're speaking on behalf of any of the, okay, sounds good. Okay. So with that, I guess we'll move to our legislative items. We have 6.1, which is the land development fee zoning amendment. Are you going to be presenting, Mr.?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So this item, ZAO 1-2026, Land Development Fee Zoning Amendment, this is the ordinance that accompanies the discussion item that we had at your last meeting in November regarding the land development fee study. This is the actual ordinance to implement the recommendations of that study, which was accepted by City Commission back in December. So just to reiterate, the land development fee study, which was completed last year, was looking at our hourly costs, vehicle and equipment hourly rates, materials, supplies, costs, etc., to derive an actual schedule of planning and zoning fees. Along with that right sizing of the fee structure, there was an initiative to streamline the fee structure, simplify it as much as possible so that it was as clear, provide additional clarity to applicants. So the land development, the zoning and land development section of the city's Code of Ordinances is Chapter 24. Appendix A is the land development fee schedule. It provides that existing fee structure in a list format with various application types and list of mixes types, and stacking fee structures are kind of unclear the way that it's set up currently as published on Muni Code. So the proposed fee structure is aligning with those findings of the 2025 land development fee study, streamlining the fee structure, right-sizing the fees based on actual costs of the city. in terms of staff time, materials, et cetera. And it separates the fees into 3 distinct categories, which align with the various application types that we have. We have applications where public hearings are required, and those public hearings are, of course, the Planning and Zoning Board and then City Commission for approval. We have staff technical review required applications, and there are some more complex administrative applications that the department has the authority to approve, but it still needs to be reviewed by the staff internal technical review of application for development, or TRAD committee, for their recommendation. And then we have the third classification is administrative review required. So those are typically like over-the-counter permits, or permits that zoning applications that require a minimum level of administrative review and approval. So we're required to provide a fiscal and budgetary impact analysis of these. It was determined that there would be a minor fiscal impact based on the fees, an analysis of the fees collected during the during the calendar year 2025. Actual fees collected were approximately $41,000, which represented about 3.8% of the Planning and Zoning Division's total operating budget. The proposed fee schedule would reduce those collections to about $36,000, assuming the same applications came in under the new fee schedule, which would represent a total of about 3.3% of the Planning and Zoning Division's actual operating budget. So the physical impact is really de minimis compared to the actual cost of the operations of maintaining a planning and zoning staff. Based on the findings of the study and the direction from the City Commission to implement those changes, staff recommends a motion by the board to recommend that the Mayor and City Commission approve Ordinance 2026XX for ZA01 2026, Land Development Fee Zoning Amendment, streamlining, right-sizing, and clarifying the fee schedule by finding it consistent with the 2025 Land Development Fee Study, accepted by Resolution R 2025-196, and the City of North Miami Beach Comprehensive Plan. Please note that the Planning and Zoning Board has the express authority to recommend approval with amendments, or denial of any item. Any motion to approve with amendments or deny shall include stated cause or causes for said action. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. I know this is a legislative item, and this seems as if it came back with direction from the commission, but if anyone has any questions, I'd like to start on this side. Mr. Essler?
Sure. Hi.
Hi.
How are you? Just on the 3 the slide that shows the percentage of the budget that's covered by the fees, is that 3%? Seems kind of low to me, but is that in line with other municipalities? Is that what everyone's sort of, the 3 to 5%?
Yes, typically your application fees represent a very small part of the total planning and zoning operational budget, because most of the resources of the department go in, of that part of the organization, go into long-range planning, as well as responding to external and internal customer requests for which there are not necessarily any fees associated. So it's really the availability of staff to answer questions, so general services, not reviewing actual applications for development. Now, if we had 2025 is a particularly low volume year compared to some of the years earlier in this decade of the 2020s. Or if this was a fast growing community on the edge of an urbanized area and you were building huge subdivisions, you might see that percentage jump up to 15, 20, 30. I think I've seen as high as 40% for like a Pasco County, Florida. But in a fairly stable community that's built out where you're really looking at redevelopment changes, this is in line. Anything, 0 to 10% is really normal.
Normal, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that stuck out at me, really, I just quickly looked at the fee structures vacating an alley. Wait, I guess it was like $1,300
Yes.
for the fee. That seems a little low for what you guys have to do.
So those fees actually stack. There's an application fee.
Oh.
There's the TRAD fee because it requires TRAD review, and then there's the application for the right-of-way vacation itself. So those three fees together equal the application fee. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Owen? Ms. Taylor?
Yes, since I'm new to the board, Mr. Chair, I do have questions about the background. So my understanding from the staff report is that the purpose of this really came from the fact that the fees hadn't been reviewed since 2010s. Have you heard any, I guess, complaints from developers, or was there any other, I guess, impetus or background for why we're revisiting the fee schedule?
So it is best practice to review the fee schedule on a regular basis. The current provisions of the ordinance actually require those, the fees to be reviewed on a regular basis, which doesn't appear to have been done in any comprehensive manner in the past decade. The other direction, there was direction from City Commission, and staff has received some complaints over the sort of complexity of the existing fee structure, if not the actual dollar amounts charged.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Pressburg?
I'm happy if you're happy.
Okay.
The fees are basically going down slightly.
Yes, very slightly, but I think the real win here for the community is that they're easier to understand.
Streamline is usually good. And I apologize, Naomi. Can you remind me of your last name again?
Blamir.
Lemire.
You got it.
Okay, Ms. Blamir. Any questions or comments?
Just one question, just for future reference. What should be the timeline by which we revisit these fees?
So the consultant recommended that we look at these internally as staff annually to evaluate if our costs have changed significantly as far as staff compensation and other associated costs. And that we do a major review every 5 years. So those recommendations will be taken into account. They're not part of the ordinance, which is really kind of poor form to put it in there, to codify it.
Thank you. That's all.
Nothing to add from me. I'll entertain a motion for or against.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by
Second.
Esper, co-seconded by Ms. Blamir and Ms. Taylor. This is a legislative item. Are we going to do a roll call? Or
Yes, I think that would be appropriate.
Mark St. Ville,
4?
Daniel Heisler,
4.
Ruth Ogen, Julian Kreisberg,
4.
Francesca Taylor,
4.
Naomi Blimmer.
4.
Motion carries. Moving along, item 6.2, which is the variance zoning amendment. And are you back? Oh, sure.
Yes.
Long time no see.
Unfortunately, you get to see a lot of me this evening.
Okay.
So the next item on the agenda is proposed zoning amendment ZA02 2026 variance. So this item is brought forward to align the existing code. Excuse me. To align the existing code of ordinances with the provisions of the city charter. Specifically, City Charter Section 3.5.3 for variances requires a 2/3 supermajority of the Planning and Zoning Board to recommend approval, a 2/3 supermajority of City Commission to overrule a Planning and Zoning Board recommendation of denial, and requirements for standards for hardships which are not, to quote some of the language, self-imposed. So currently, Chapter 24, Zoning and Land Development Regulations, Article 2, Definitions, Section 24-22 definitions, variance and waiver definitions are misaligned with the requirements of Section 3.5.3 of the City Charter. Additionally, Article, same Chapter 24, Article 13 signs, the variance standards that are there are specific to the provision of signs on sites. Those sections are not aligned with the city charter. And then again, the variance procedures in that same article, but section 159 instead of 158, the procedures, again, those do not align with the city charter. And then finally, the other development review procedures in Article 15, this is section 24-176 for variance, sets out standards which are not aligned, again, with the city charter. The process and application requirements are also not aligned with section 166-030.033 of Florida statutes, which requires that municipalities, quote, specify in writing the minimum information that must be submitted for an application for zoning approval, rezoning approval, subdivision approval, certification, special exception, or variance. And then this is the proposed revisions, summation of thereof. In definitions, it's to revise those definitions to ensure consistency with the city charter, including revising and the definition of a waiver to specifically reference the administrative waiver process, which is in Article 15, and to clarify the decision-making authorities relative to variances and waivers. Within Article 13 regarding signs, section 24-158 is modifying that section to rename the section to variance for signs, clarifying that it is specific to signs, renumbering the provisions to clarify the requirements, provide a clear purpose and intent subsection, reference Chapter 24, Section 24-176, which is the actual variance procedure, and then to delete obsolete provisions. So that deletion of obsolete provisions includes the deletion of Section 24-159, renaming that section to reserved and then deleting that full text. Within Article 15, other development review procedures, Section 24176, this is renumbering the provisions to provide clarity of requirements, deleting obsolete provisions, and providing clear sections for purpose and intent, application requirements, variance approval criteria, the burden of persuasion, review process, and conditions of approval. So these proposed revisions to the Code of Ordinances are consistent with the city's comprehensive plan regarding the future land use element, the goal, objective, and policy listed therein, as well as objective 1.8 and policy 1.8.2 regarding land development code. Is also consistent with the policy, with the goal, objective, and policies listed here for the coastal management element, and this goal, objective, and policy of the property rights element. The proposed physical and budgetary impact of this proposed amendment, which again aligns the variance processes and procedures and requirements with the city charter section 3.5.3 variances, has no anticipated physical impact on the budget or physical condition of the city. It clarifies existing processes. Application review and processing fees remain unchanged, and no additional staff time is anticipated for the review of and approval of the review processing of any particular application. Based on these staff findings, staff recommends that to the Board of Zoning Appeals that they move to recommend the Mayor and City Commission approval of ordinance should be 2026 XX for ZA02 2026 variance zoning amendment, establishing a purpose and intent, application requirements, approval criteria, review process, and alignment with the requirements of section 3.5.3 variances of the city charter, finding it consistent with the City of North Miami Beach Comprehensive Plan. And again, the Board of Zoning Appeals has the express authority to recommend approval with amendments, or denial of any item. Any motion to recommend approval with amendments or denial must include stated cause or causes for said action. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. We'll start on this side this time. Board Member Bemer.
No questions.
Board Member Crushberg.
Was there ever an issue with it being not aligned with prior? Because we haven't looked at this forever. What made you look at it to begin with?
So there were some questions raised about the variance, even in this board, about the number of variances on some projects that were considered for approval or had been approved in the past. Based on that discussion, general discussion, staff looked at the variance procedure. The Florida statute that was mentioned in the staff presentation, that Florida statute was recently revised a couple of years ago. So as part of the process of ensuring that our Code of Ordinances is consistent with those requirements, we're looking at all application processes and procedures. This particular process, because it can be sensitive, was examined first, and the city charter provisions stood out in particular because it was not aligned with the current code requirements. So the main difference between what the code requires currently and what the city charter says the city should be requiring or considering as far as variances are directly related to the demonstration of a hardship. The current provisions do not require demonstration of a hardship by the applicant, which is a direct contradiction with the provision of the city charter. The other provisions regarding the 2/3, the supermajority votes by the Planning and Zoning Board to recommend approval, and then by City Commission to overrule a failure by the Zoning Board to recommend approval would be additional considerations that are not in the current variance provisions. So they're not clear. They're not super clear in the current ordinance.
So on that subject, if we don't pass by 2/3, is that the equivalent of a denial?
Yes. Yes.
Are we going to have to change the charter in any way?
No, this is aligning with the charter. The charter actually says those things already, and this is the proposed ordinance revision aligns the code of ordinances with the city charter. There's no change to the city charter. This is alignment with the existing city charter.
Okay. Board Member Taylor?
No further questions, thank you.
Board Member Ogden? No question. Board Member Hessler? I'm good. Okay. As our former vice chair would say, this seems like a house cleaning item for large in part. I did have a point of inquiry, though, as it relates to administrative waiver, because it says that it's being added. Was there not a official process by which you guys had the ability to have an administrative waiver before this?
There's an administrative waiver process called out in the processes. We were adding the definition of administrative waiver in the definitions section, so there was clarity as to what the threshold of variance versus administrative waiver.
Okay. That was my only inquiry. I will entertain a motion for, in, or against. Motion to approve by Ms.
I'll second that.
Second by Board Member Cressberg. Javier, if we can have a roll call, please.
Mark St. Ville,
For.
Daniel Heisler,
Approve.
Ruth Ogen, Julian Kreisberg,
Approve.
Francesca Taylor,
4.
Naomi Blemmer.
4.
Motion carries. I believe that is our last legislative items. We do have 2 discussion items. Starting with item 7.1, which is 151st Street FIU North Campus Station Area Plan.
Okay. Thank you, and good evening. This is the just a discussion item to review the ongoing plan, special area plan that's underway regarding the proposed FIU North Campus at 151st Street Station Area Plan. This is a project looking at the area in terms of transit-oriented development for that future rail station, commuter rail station. So the proposed commuter rail station is part of the Miami-Dade County SMART program. This is the transit corridor priority lines for the entire county. The northeast corridor is our corridor of concern. That is a proposed commuter rail line running on the FEC railroad tracks. This commuter rail is envisioned to go between downtown Miami and Aventura, eventually regionally across into Broward County. But within Miami-Dade County, it's 7 stations between downtown and Aventura, with, of course, the station of our interest being the FIU North Campus Station, which is identified as being at Northeast 151st Street. So this planning activity is actually cooperatively funded by a grant from the Miami-Dade Transportation Planning Organization, or TPO. Their TPO municipal grant program is like a competitive grant. It's open to all municipalities in Miami-Dade County and requires a minimum of a 20% local match. As far as the city's grant award goes for this station area master plan, the grant amount was $100,000. The projected project cost was $145,000. The project consultant is the Cordino Group, and this grant must be closed out by March 31st of this year, so a little under a month and a half away. A little over a month and a half away, excuse me. So project progress, this project was on a quick timeline. It kicked off in the spring with a kickoff meeting and discovery process, which is the data being from the city going out to the consultant, and then planning for a series of public workshops. In the summer and fall, those public workshops were held, the first 4 beginning in June and August, and then following in the fall in late November or mid-November and early December. Draft documents were delivered to the city at the very end of last year with some revisions recently submitted, which are have been pushed to you guys in your agenda packets. The upcoming project milestones, we have this discussion tonight. There's a workshop number 5 planned for the 18th, which there should be some flyers floating around for that. There's also a QR code on those flyers, which will link you to a registration to attend that meeting virtually via webinar format, where you can provide written questions and answers will be provided verbally for those in physical attendance as well as those viewing online. And then in March, it is anticipated that this will come back to the Planning and Zoning Board with a recommendation of a resolution to adopt the plan at your March 9th meeting. And then the City Commission meeting for the month of March has been pushed to the 26th, which I believe is the last Thursday of the month. The final work invoice by the consultant has to be completed, wrapped up, and everything actually paid by the city to the consultant by the 31st of the month. So we are on a tight project timeline from here out. Just a general overview of the draft documents, and the project manager from the Cordino side, Mark Alvarez, is here this evening, and he can answer any questions that you may have about the project in detail. But within the draft document, there's an existing conditions with some background on the project and data and analysis, existing and future land uses, the typical stuff, area demographics, transportation, etc. Then there's some transportation analysis section, which is looking at the regionally supportive area, the systems analysis, various types of mobility, and then talking about complete streets components. There's a land use analysis, the role of the transit-oriented development within the sort of long-range vision for the city, some information about sustainability and land use mixes, placemaking, and then sort of the regulatory review and approval process and how that may be used to incentivize or shape development within this area. The draft documents should also contain some action steps and recommendations. But really for this meeting tonight, the key is really the policy questions about land use mix. The basic sort of planning principles for planning an area around a transit stop in terms of best practices are pretty straightforward. It's fundamental planning 101. The real policy question for the city, and professional planners can't answer this question, it's really the policymakers and the community, is what is our goal? What is our long-term goal for this area? How are we going to use the huge public investment that a transit station, a commuter rail station in particular, what is that public investment going to mean for the city? How are we going to leverage that investment to produce the kind of development and redevelopment around that transit stop that's maximally beneficial to the city and its long-term vision? And there's really three paths to go down. From my perspective as a planner, and really I think the consultant is leaning in this direction too, as to how to think about this. Is you have the sort of residential maximum scenario where you're reinforcing the sort of city's existing position as a bedroom community for the larger regional economy. You have major nodes to the north and south with the two downtowns, Miami, city of Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Do you have a balanced approach to that mix of uses within that zone where you've got a good amount of residential, but you're providing more capacity for commercial development to provide some economic development activity or potential for that zone around the transit stop? And then the third option is really going all in on the commercial workplace mix, and it does still add residential to that to create a complete community around the transit stop, but you're really looking at maximizing the potential for non-residential development so that you can create what would essentially, within the context of the region, become a tertiary or third order employment center. So your first order employment centers are the two big downtowns to the north and south. Your second order employment centers would be places like around the airport, Miami-Dade County Airport, the Airport and Port Authority area in Fort Lauderdale, sort of the I-595 corridor in Fort Lauderdale. Those are secondary employment centers. Maybe even some of your smaller traditional downtowns like downtown Hollywood would also be second order, but there's not enough scale for us to be one of those second order, but there is enough scale to be a third order employment center. And that has implications as far as the city's existing economic development strategies and desires. And it also has implications as far as the way that transit corridor is used in terms of station peaks and timing, which the consultant could speak to more eloquently than I. I'm not a transportation guy. So again, this item is for discussion, so there's no formal board action required. We as staff, and certainly the consultant has indicated that they would love for the board to provide some recommendations or discussion or general direction regarding what they've seen and what they think the land use policy, what's the preferred direction is going to be. They also encourage all of you to participate in the fifth and final workshop to help guide the final development of this plan, which will ultimately come before you again, and then on with your recommendation to City Commission. And with that, both myself and Mark Alvarez are here from the Cordino Group for any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Mr. Hessler?
So the city itself, I mean, the area near that train station is pretty industrial, right?
Very much.
What is the mix there?
So when we, Mark Alvarez from the Cordino Group, project manager. This is a really key question. A few slides ago, you saw that there were 4 workshops. With each of those workshops, we also had steering committee participation, which is city staff. We had development from Aventura. We even had somebody who lives near here and does development in Doral. We had FIU participating in those. And from the very beginning, they started to talk to us about doing something different than a typical TOD. More typical TOD is the sort of residential, cafes and retail mix. And says, we have this triangle. So again, let me go through the geography. The train station would be just south of 151st Street along the tracks. It's in North Miami, not in North Miami Beach. North Miami Beach is essentially a quarter, more or less, of that TOD area. We did have some participation with North Miami, and they are working on their own land use analysis as part of their whole city analysis. We know that a lot of development is going on to the east side of Biscayne Boulevard, very large development, and it's North Miami and County for the most part. We also have the great benefit of having FIU's North Campus there, which specializes in hospitality, but also has ocean sciences and a number of medical sciences as specialties there. We also noted that it's Baptist Health, has located on that side. So that steering committee came to us and said, look, we have, essentially, when we look at the land use part of this, not the transportation and bicycle and all that, but the land use, we have this triangle, and I'll always call it the triangle, between the tracks, Dixie Highway, and 151st Street. That's what we're really focusing on for the land use. We focus less on the B2 zoned areas because they're already zoned very big, and we can't go backwards. So when we looked at this area, we said, well, it's already industrial. And it's not an industrial area that's highly developed. It's like a tabula rasa. It's a clean slate for us to work with. We don't have a lot of development there already. And that's a tremendous opportunity. One of the things that steering committee pushed very hard is that, in Dade County, we're still developing residential everywhere. Retail and that kind of commercial, nobody's sure of the market. You have a very strong retail center in Aventura, and you're not going to compete with that. It's just too strong. So what's the thing that we really need in this county? And it's workplaces. It's industrial, it's light industrial, it's tech industrial. And so from that beginning, we were starting to move in this direction. How could we reposition this area to be the tech industrial? And you read in the newspaper about defense industries moving into West Palm Beach. We have a lot of tech. We have the space program going again. We have a lot of tech coming to Florida. And the idea was, how do we capture that? So the focus of this is always about land development. We're going to leverage a train station, which can deliver which is projected for about 27,000 riders in 10 years from now for the whole line. We can leverage that train station as one piece of what you need for an employment center, which is to bring people here without having to drive their cars. So that's really what we worked on. So of course we look at the area, and what we have is actually some transition, right? It's old auto uses, very important to the area. I've used some of those businesses myself. There are some specialties in there that I would hate to see go away. But in any case, that's what you have, and we know that it's a very difficult mix, and it's very underutilized. It's mostly one story. It doesn't take up a lot of land. We see that we're already having this process. It's typical where we see the gyms coming in because they can use that kind of space. So we already know the value is going up. So the steering committee told us, look, let's look at this as a clean slate and figure out how do we use this area to leverage business, to leverage workplaces. We can't just keep making places for people to live. They have to work too. So we worked with FIU on those steering committees. We've worked about looking at all the possibilities that we could use in this area. Now, again, it's not, you can read about this in other cities. We don't have the big, old industrial buildings to work with. This is pretty much clean slate. It's knock it down and we're going to build something new. So what we eventually moved to is trying to create an area that does both. So we work with the triangle. As we go west into the city, we don't want to touch that area because it's mostly a single-family residential. We would transition in there to a slightly more dense residential and maybe some commercial on the bottom. But for the triangle, we said, let's keep it to do two things. One is create this employment center. Actually, three things, excuse me. One is for this employment center, which is going to be focused on high-tech business, clean industrial, not the car repair shops, unless they can get clean. So kind of move it in that direction. The other part of that is we do want a station to be 24 hours. We want the area to have residential. So again, that's very tricky for the mix because we want workplaces that are clean types of businesses. We can't have the auto shops in their state as they are. So we would have the upper floors residential, the lower floors commercial, and we would transition the commercial as we come forward from 151st Street. We would transition it to have maybe one block of the traditional kind of retail cafe, because we're looking at the FEC spur as a sort of a main pedestrian plaza, if the city can get it. And up to 153rd, having that sort of cafe and retail, and then transitioning into these sort of office spaces or light manufacturing, which could be avionics, which could even be, there's a new sector of business now that happened because of tariffs. So there's final assemblies happening. There are people looking for those spaces. FIU's North Campus could have spin-off industries, again, small incubators. We only need one thing to do this, and we need space. Those kinds of businesses need big open spaces. So what we've done in those recommendations, and it would carry, if it goes forward, it would carry forward into zoning that's something a little different than you've seen, is we need the bottom floors to be large open spaces, still have glass. We don't want empty walls, because it's going to be clean industry. It's going to be incubators in there, but they also need 30-foot ceilings. They need the big, tall ceilings. So we have a very interesting vision for this, where we would have the typical residential on the top and this sort of mix between technical, high-tech industries and employment areas, as well as the cafes and the retail. So now we have an interaction for daytime between employees and those retails, and still also have an interaction between the people who live above and most likely don't, but could work below and could shop and go to their cafes below. As we moved forward with this concept, we also realized that it's a little difficult to do it with the normal sort of, we often see the tower, the 30-foot tower, the pedestal, and something on the bottom. We've, at this point, kept it fairly low. We're looking at an initial recommendation, and we work this from taking the train station ridership projections and considering that to be 5% of who would live here and work here, and working our way up to the numbers. And we came out, again, just for the triangle, not for the whole area, but this would be the triangle that doesn't need to park in the station, because the parking for the station is small. And we came up with about 7,000-ish, ish is a technical term, right? Approximately 7,000 units of residential. One of the other reasons we want to do that is we want to keep it so that there's a scale. What happens with the big towers is you have 4 to 5 levels of parking, and you lose touch with the street below. It may be fine on Biscayne Boulevard, but it's not what we want to do in these smaller streets. So the vision that we're going forward with now for land use is basically this 10-story, which comes out to about 120 units an acre, about 7,000 units. That's under what the county recommends for its RTZ, but we think this is your plan, and we'll start here, and if it has to push upwards, we can do that too. We can accommodate. So that's the overall vision. I don't have my own presentation to give you all the visuals on that, but it's basically 151st Street is a county road. We can't do a whole lot with it. The other side is North Miami. We do want to use the public works, we are recommending the public works yard becomes an interceptor parking garage. Because if you have uses here that draw people at night, they need a place to park. And if you want to attract business, whether it's workplace business or retail business, one of the things that really counts a lot is parking flexibility. So in other words, you don't require every place to have one space for every 300 square feet. You end up having parking lots. So we thought, let's use that and recommend that as a city parking garage. City can make revenue with it eventually, and we can create the center of that, a rooftop amenity that would lead people into the area. And we had a lot of people come and say, can we leverage off the history of music and entertainment in this area and put that into that space? And that's what we've recommended as well. And again, actually, I was participating in your comprehensive plan, and I was amazed that everybody here is looking for, let me say this right, entertainment for adults, not adult entertainment. In other words, entertainment like comedy clubs and music places and venues that people can go at night, because I guess people are bored of Netflix at this point. So we can combine all of this. We can put that as our center for the nighttime. We can still have residents who live there, and we can make it a place that people want to live because now it has something like that, and we can create the employment. It's a long stretch. We're trying to do a lot here. So that would be the interceptor parking. It's on 151st, draws people in. You can have a pedestrian center without cars wandering around to park. And then as we go north in that, we get more and more into the employment base of it, up until about 155th, where we have to figure out how to cross the properties where the storage units are. So that's, I kind of went around a little bit. I hope that answers you in a nutshell of where we want to go with it.
So basically, you're increasing height limitations?
Yes, right now it's
increasing density?
Increasing. There is no density because it's mostly industrial.
Mostly, right.
And it's 2 stories right now. It's about, if I recall, we're at about 20 to 25% coverage of the land with buildings, which is very, very low.
Right.
We would look for an FAR in the range of 7 to 10. That is, if you include the residential. We're looking around 120 units per acre. We're looking about 10 stories because we can keep the parking down to 2 levels in that kind of context.
And then the height, you had mentioned it at the beginning, the 30-foot ceiling heights on the first floor. That would be for what?
That would be open space that could be either retail or a workspace environment, even light manufacturing. And the concept there, and we see this in a lot of places where this works, is you'd still allow a mezzanine. So a lot of retail actually goes for this kind of situation where they have a very tall ceiling. 30 feet's like if you walk into Costco, that's a 30-foot ceiling. Mm-hmm. If you have a mezzanine in there, it becomes a more of a retail situation. And you see this happening in a lot of cities where they use the space, but they still have a mezzanine to get more floor area. The same can happen in a lot of clean industrial, a lot of high tech, where there's perhaps some light manufacturing, but you can still have offices and so forth on the mezzanine. So the 30-foot is just to create, it's a very unusual thing to consider, but it creates a space, a volume, I should say, that can accommodate any of those things. And that's what we want to do, is we want to have that flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am on board with creating more of a commercial work area in that triangle as opposed to just throwing a bunch of apartment buildings there. Mm-hmm. Where people can live. So I like that approach. Do you foresee any environmental issues with some of the uses that are presently there and cleanup or anything like that? Or
we haven't gotten to that level of detail, although I don't see any gas stations. Those are the usual suspects. Some of the automotive industries, again, we don't know. It depends on what their practices have been. But it seems to be that we don't have any initial concerns with that. And again,
basically, the changes in I guess height are going to attract more commercial uses in that triangle, is what you're trying to do.
Correct. And one of the things I should also mention is that we've also worked with your CRA director, as well as staff, as well as our steering committees, on the idea, and I'm always in favor of this, is not to overzone. So we're trying to keep we're trying to start low, and if we have to push higher, we'll push higher. But overzoning is a disaster very often. If you zone for 30 stories and the market isn't there, you have a fence and a vacant land.
Mm-hmm.
We want to try to get it right, sort of right size this area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Ms. Ogden?
The question I have, I know several people that have businesses in that triangle right now. What is the plan for them? I mean, they have automotive businesses. What's the plan for them?
So that's why we're being careful with this. We're not going to eject everybody all at once. We want to try to create something that can transitionally move forward without removing those businesses until they're ready to move. I know some of them have been there a shorter time. Some of them will eventually, depending on the ownership patterns, some will be priced out. We've had some of the business owners in our workshops, and they are looking for the possibilities of redevelopment. I don't know where they'll go at that point, but they're looking at that possibility, and they're very supportive of the idea that if they are a clean business, they can remain there. The ones who have come to our workshops are the ones who have the cleaner businesses that could probably remain. Some of them I know have, some of even the auto shops have been, like the upholstery shop, I think they've been there for 30 years. So we recognize that. We want to make sure that they can move on their own. We're not going to eject everybody at once. And that's why there's this struggle of trying to make sure that we create something that's a workspace environment on the bottom, or at least north of 153rd Street, a workspace environment on the lower floors that will still be compatible, because of course not everything happens at once. We want to make sure that we're compatible with the businesses that are there as well. That said, we also recognize that those businesses, as this happens, have to clean up. There'll be more code enforcement. They have to maintain themselves in a much cleaner fashion.
Are the owners there, do they know that this is happening? Were they notified?
For the ones who came to the workshops are very well aware. We have had notice go throughout the triangle, correct? Yes. Yeah, okay, I just want to confirm.
Okay.
So but we have had a few business owners come. I know one of the gym owners. We've had Atlantic Shutters and one of the owners of the studio that's on the east side of 21st Avenue. So we have had some of the business owners. We have not had, to be honest, I have not talked to any of the auto shop owners because they just haven't come to the meetings.
Okay.
Okay.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes, thank you for your overview. I really mainly have comments. One is that I'm glad that we are working with the city of North Miami, since they're right south of this location, and what we build would have to be complementary to them. So I just want to encourage that continuous cooperation. I do like the idea of having a mixed use with tech and industrial. As you were speaking, I was thinking maybe there's room for maybe maker spaces, microbreweries, things of that nature, to create like a third place and entertainment district, as you mentioned. But one thing that I also want to kind of, be aware of is safe crossings, not only across 151st, but then also across Biscayne. So as we're considering development and bringing on potential, encouraging new developers, I like the idea of, I think I saw in the draft plan, having easements for beautification. So I think that there might be some room there to also have beautification and safe crossings across those roadways.
Agreed. And we have put that in there. Probably the hardest one is Biscayne Boulevard itself, but we have worked a lot on the crossing between the station and the other side of 151st Street. So that's, of course, critical because people from the station have to walk in this area. And also, we had people on the third workshop, I think, in particular, or the second and third, who came from the neighborhood across West Dixie Highway, and I was surprised they really wanted to be included in this. They want to continue to live there, but they want to be a part of it, and they asked for that connection across West Dixie Highway at about 153rd.
Yes, I'm a member of that constituency.
Perfect. Okay.
Mr. Cresser?
When are we starting? When are we finishing?
When?
Where's the money?
Are you asking them when's the crane going to be in the air?
Yeah, but the start date, we're breaking ground on
So
the station.
the station is about 2030 to be operational. 2030 to be operational. So they will start construction ahead of that. Probably as far as the money, this is really focused on development. That's private investment. That's where we would see most of the investment. Again, we've recommended that the city reuse its public works yard in a manner that we can still have the public works yard on the bottom, but we would supply some of the interceptor parking for the businesses in the area so they don't have to park their businesses. The city will still have revenue from that. That's something that would be before, well, we'll talk about that. That has to be programmed after we get the plan approved.
Okay. Ms. Premier?
Thank you so very much for the presentation. I am definitely for a live, work, and play corner or triangle in North Miami Beach. I am particularly concerned about ensuring that all of the businesses in the area are aware. I'm concerned about the idea that some are aware only because they came to the workshop. So how many more workshops between now and then do you have planned? And what are you going to do to ensure the ones that have not come to the workshop, that you engage with them and that you have a conversation so that when the city's actually ready to move full force ahead, that we do not have situations where business owners or even renters who have been there for a very long time are dissatisfied or are not ready to welcome this type of project.
Our next meeting is, our last meeting is next week. I'm trying to think. I mean, we can work with the city to see if there's a greater effort to get some of those business owners in, and work with that group before we go to finalization of the plan.
How have you reached out to, for the meetings that you have had, how have you reached out to the public?
We have, I think this is a little more on the staff side, so I'm
Zafar Ahmed, Director of Community Development. We've basically reached out to the community. We've distributed flyers. We went from property to property to basically talk about the charrette process. We have an ongoing presence on the city's webpage. There's access to information that we not only for the workshop itself, but on an ongoing media blast about what's coming in this area. Now remember, we are also working on a comprehensive plan update, and that also is linked to the overall goals of what we're doing. So we talk about that as in the TOD process as well. So there is a linkage of the future visioning both for the TOD as well as the city's comprehensive plan. So there is a lot of word out there in terms of how we foresee the future, the new vision of the city of North Miami Beach.
So I'm going to push back just a little bit because as a small business owner, day in, day out, I'm worried about my business. I'm not necessarily focused on what the city is actually thinking about 5-7 years from now. So I'm really going to challenge you guys to do something different, to reach out to these businesses and those within the area so that once the city is ready to move forward, you do not have challenges. Whether they say, I never heard of it, or yes, I heard of it, but they stopped by one time and I didn't, think anything of it. And I just didn't show up. So I'm going to challenge you guys to do something different. Possibly take a look at your flyer what does it actually say, right? Is it really convincing or showing the person that there are decisions being made? Obviously, you can't put that much on a flyer, but making sure that it is very specific so that they understand that a change is coming and that you want their input, right? And so that if they fail to attend, then you're going to move on without them. However you can put that on the flyer, I would suggest that you do so, because I understand that once the city start moving forward, if you have not put a good effort in contacting them, we're going to have a full pack house here with people who are unhappy, and we don't want that.
We've expanded the outreach. We have the county commissioners, actually 3 of the county commissioners, 2 current and 1 past commissioner, who's also reaching out to their constituents to participate. I just sent out an email to the 3 commissioners today, inviting them to participate and their constituents participate in the 5th workshop.
Okay.
So we are not only just concentrating for within the city, we are also have the additional reinforcement from the county commission, who are at least 3, 2 current and 1 former commissioner, who are also on board and reaching out to their constituents. So I think we have a good outreach out there, and we will have participation in the 5th. That's why we have an additional workshop. This was not a planned workshop.
Okay.
The consultant has agreed to do it pro bono. We're not charging any fee for this additional effort, so that we would make an extra last effort to reach out and consolidate the final recommendations.
Okay, great. And what is the date for this final meeting?
It's on the 18th of February.
Okay, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Those are all my questions.
Did you have something that you wanted to add?
I understand your concern. My name is Jackie Janard. I'm the city planner and the project manager for the TRD project, for the transit-oriented development. On the workshop, for every stage of the workshop, because they have we were addressing different areas for the development. We had reached out to the residents. And on the, I believe it was our 3rd workshop, because in addition to having the meeting with the constituents here, we walked, just so you know, we walked the neighborhood and we invited every single homeowner. We translated the flyers in both Spanish and in Creole, and Haitian Creole, and we walked the neighborhood on both the residential side and the other side of West Dixie, that's closest to the area, to the station area, and we distributed it and spoke to the homeowners about the station and what's coming, and how we would like their presence so they could participate. Some of them, they come, and some of them do not. But we welcome the challenge. For workshop number 5, we'll go back and we'll redistribute the flyers and talk to the people and asking them to come for more input.
Of course, listen, I get it, right? There's only but so much you can do. I'm just saying that since this is the last and final one, let's do a big push and make it a buzz so that people are talking about it. And amongst the neighbors, they're saying to themselves, hey, we should show up, right? Because this is our last opportunity to actually have our voices heard. And if and when the city decides to move forward and we have individuals come and say, hey, I didn't know about this, we can literally say, hey, we've had 5 meetings. For the 5th one, we did A, B, C, D. At that point, the person should be without excuse, but we know they're going to have excuses. But our job, right, as a body is to ensure that we did all that we possibly could have done within our means to effectively communicate to them, give them enough time to make arrangements to show up to this meeting, because this is going to have an impact on their life. And I'm not talking as someone who is engaged. I'm thinking from the standpoint of someone who's not engaged and who's just living their life and, going to work or coming and running their business and are not necessarily thinking about what's going on or to even attend a meeting. I'm just asking that you show that there's a sense of urgency, because after this, you will not have an opportunity to have your voice heard. And the more things that we have in writing, right, to say that we did this, I think the public, if and when they come and say, I did not know, they themselves would have to say, okay, you know what, they've done all of this, where was I, right? So it's just a matter of just making sure that we've done all that we can, because at the end of the day, we're the government, they're the population, and we have the responsibility. The burden is upon us, not upon them. Thank you.
And we have done that. We'll continue to do that for workshop number 5. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Really quick, I know that Mr. Austin highlighted a 31st deadline by in which we need to, quote unquote, close out the grant. I also know that we have areas that border with North Miami. Is there any way that anything that North Miami has going on can impede on our ability to close out that grant by the 31st? Because, you definitely don't want to lose the free money. So I know we're on a tight schedule, and I think I saw the 26th is when we have our city commission meeting. So long as that goes through, we should be fine with keeping up with that time frame?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then just from my own curiosity, with the train station, is this being positioned as a rapid train station? Is it supposed to be a regular train facility?
So the Northeast Corridor, as planned in the Miami-Dade County SMART program, is a commuter rail station, so something equivalent to like Tri-Rail.
Okay.
The speed of the actual trains is more determined by the quality of the track. So Brightline has upgraded the FEC line to a certain speed standard, which is probably higher than most of the old CSX line that Tri-Rail runs on. So if you pulled the Tri-Rail train set over and just plopped it down on the FEC line today, it could probably run faster than it can on the old SEC tracks. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to be the same speed as Brightline.
Gotcha. Okay, those were my 2 pointed inquiries. Thank you. This is a discussion item. You've gotten a lot of feedback, some direction from our board members. I hope you guys take that in consideration, and you share some of those notes with the commission for their upcoming meeting. Hopefully the 18th is a success. Unless someone wants a second bite at the apple, I'd move over to item 7.2, which is another discussion item, which is actually just a comprehensive plan update.
Yes.
You?
Yes. So this is an update on our comprehensive plan update. The primary reason for having this presentation today is the draft charrette summary document. So just going backwards in time a little bit, the comprehensive plan is the long-range plan that sets out the path to achieve the city's vision. It's about defining challenges and opportunities, defining the city's character and identity, gives direction regarding future development and sustainable growth, and establishes goals, objectives, and policies to allow for consistent decision-making by the elected officials, the policymakers. The comprehensive plan is the only planning document that the city has that carries the weight of state law. So we just had a long discussion about the TOD plan, and when the TOD plan is accepted by the city, it's really just a paper tiger. It could sit on the shelf forever and do nothing. It has to be implemented through changes to the comprehensive plan as reinforced by the city's capital improvement program and other priorities, as well as changes to ultimately filtering down to changes to Chapter 24, zoning and land development regulations. So the comprehensive plan is where the rubber meets the road as far as planning, and then where the rubber meets the road as far as turning something as specific as the station area plan into reality is really about the city's budget, particularly its capital improvements program, and its code of ordinances as far as land development regulations. So the comprehensive plan update project really began in earnest at the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, with the evaluation and appraisal report phase. Staff looked at the existing comprehensive plan, reviewing that document in light of legislative changes and city priorities and planning since the last comprehensive plan update. Staff, based on that analysis, drafted a evaluation and appraisal report, EAR. I'm a planner, we love our acronyms, letter, and then presented that to City Commission as a resolution to transmit that to the state of Florida. That was submitted to the state of Florida by the April 1st, 2025 deadline. Between April and July of 2025, we were in sort of this phase one, the discovery report, plan outline, technical data and analysis was being looked at, information gathered to submit to the project consultant and to plan future steps. Between April and December, we're in this phase two stage up here on the slide, where we have a community vision report, the design charrette, and other public engagement pieces of the puzzle. Also, we have a draft plan, public comment, discussion, then moving into a final draft and transmitting to the state. As we stated, the evaluation or appraisal report was sent to the state with a one-year deadline. The two major legislative changes that we identified needing updating to the comprehensive plan were related to septic to sewer feasibility study and requirements for 10 and 20-year planning horizons with associated data and analysis. In the phase one, the discovery documents, all the plans, various plans of the city, including the comprehensive plan, were compiled and provided to the consultant, including GIS data and some image files. Staff also went sort of out in advance and produced a detailed plan outline, transitioning the current sort of layout of the comprehensive plan conceptually into a 3-volume document. The goals, objectives, and policies being the primary volume. The goals and objectives and policies, that's the actual actionable part of the comprehensive plan. That's the part of the plan that carries legal weight. Data and analysis is what supports the goals, objectives, and policies, so it's required by the state to justify your goals, objectives, and policies and to support those provisions and help resolve any conflicts if there are any within those goals, objectives, and policies. And then a document detailing the legislative policy and plans that support the comprehensive plan, so sort of an appendix document that provides additional support to those goals, objectives, and policies. So that detailed plan outline was also accompanied by some shell template documents set up in Word. There are fancier programs to do this type of plan report in, but staff prefers Word documents. They're easier to edit and modify at the staff level, not having to rely on consultants for everything we do. So within the phase 2, we had a significant community engagement component of this project, which was an urban design charrette. A charrette is a rapid, intensive creative work session bringing together community stakeholders and a design team, primarily the consultants, to reach consensus through that intensive work over a short period of time. The charrette week was October 20th through 24th of last year. And the charrette summary document that you have in your agenda packages outlines the charrette week and a summary of that engagement process, a summary of the community feedback received during that, addresses some of these focus topic areas. There are areas of community concerns at certain scales. And then there's a section that talks about getting around town, about transportation considerations that can have a significant impact on how the city can be built. And then city-wise challenges, that, as the consultant called them, and these are subjects of really city-wide concern, are impact in terms of growth and development, economics, and physical impact to the city. So the charrette summary focuses on these big ideas of creating complete neighborhoods, adding destinations and events, increasing housing opportunities, creating safe trails, improving neighborhood connectivity, expanding economic opportunities, and identifying funding sources. So again, economy and budget. And again, this is a no action required item. This is only for discussion based on you guys' review of the draft summary document. Although Mr. Alvarez is not the leader of this project with the Cordino Group, he is, of course, tangentially associated with this project because of his work on the TOD plan, so he may be able to answer questions that staff may not have insight to at this point. So,
thank you for that. Anyone dying to ask a question? Hessler, Ogden, Thompson, Taylor, Pressburg.
No, good work so far.
It looks like you guys are moving in the right direction. I know there's a lot of initiatives that came either from, especially as it relates to the variance, bringing that back. I'm appreciative of that, seeing that what we're seeing on the day is coming around full circle, as well as some directives from the commission. So I'm glad to hear that. And I'm glad that we got a meeting in for the first quarter. I was getting a little nervous.
Yes, sir, we were too.
Yeah, so let's keep up the good work. I don't have anything else to add. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry. You had a question. Go ahead. Go for it.
Yes.
So I was just curious if we're still on track for completion in August of this year for the comp plan update?
I would have to defer to the consultant on that. Also, I have to mention on the staff side, I'm not the project manager for this project. I'm just presenting it, so I'm not quite sure what the project timeline is at this point. I know that we did get a late start with a consultant because of some internal issues with the city in regards to purchasing and budgeting for the project, so I'm not quite sure where we're at.
Maybe a point of inquiry when we bring it back up. If we could get some clarity for, it'd be good.
Mr. DeVoe,
Okay.
the deadline, according to the state mandated guideline, is April of next year. So we are actually in line with that timeline. So, we should be finalizing everything.
So the timeline that she referenced was a buffer, but it's not before the actual cutoff that we need to have everything submitted by?
No, this is the comprehensive plan. It's different from the deadline for the TOD.
Right.
Yeah, so this one would be by April, we should have the reports in, and then it's going to go through a review process. It'll come back with the comments, and we'll have to address those comments. So there's 2 or 3 steps to that before we can finalize that.
Sounds good. Yeah. Anything else? Nope. All right. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.